Hello everyone, I'm happy to invite you all to watch this interesting lecture. Let me introduce myself first. I'm Miss M. Ramya, working as lecturer, Department of English in Sithalakshmi Ramaswamy College at Trichy. My topic is about an insight into stream of consciousness as a narrative technique. I have made few slides about stream of consciousness technique. They are definition, its origin, the great pioneers who have introduced about the stream of consciousness technique, and the characteristic features of stream of consciousness technique, and the different aspects on which we view upon, and features of it, certain elements in which stream of consciousness focuses upon, and the importance and significance of stream of consciousness, and there are few drawbacks on this particular stream of consciousness technique while it comes with the narrative, and also with few examples novels. First, let us see what is stream of consciousness technique and how it is focuses. Stream of consciousness focuses on psychological and emotional processes that are taking place in the minds of one or more characters. Definitions of stream of consciousness. Stream of consciousness is a literary technique that reveals the flow of thoughts and feelings of character through a very long passages. That is, the flow of one's thoughts and feelings that are expressed in a long and prolonged way. Next definition is stream of consciousness is actually a literary technique which refers more specifically to a first-person narrative that mimics the jumble of thought, emotions, and memories passing through a character's mind. Next definition is stream of consciousness tends to be less ordered since consciousness has no such beginning and no end at all. That is, the thoughts flit quite randomly from one thing to another, from past to present or from present to the future. On the whole, to say, stream of consciousness is all about the person's emotions, character's mindset, and also the memories which they have undergone as such experiences. When we look upon the origin of this stream of consciousness technique, this particular term was derived or introduced first by the great psychologist William James in his famous book The Principles of Psychology in the year 1890. The great pioneers who have introduced this stream of consciousness as a narrative technique are Virginia Woolf, Dorothy Richardson, and James Joyce. They were the main people who introduced this stream of consciousness technique. Characteristics of stream of consciousness. Stream of consciousness allows the narrator to reveal the character's flow of thoughts and emotions and takes the reader into the consciousness of the characters. Its free association makes the readers step into the inner worlds of the characters by their feelings, thoughts, and memories. It deals with the conscious, subconscious, and even unconscious part of the characters. Aspects of stream of consciousness. It does not follow ordinary rules of grammar and syntax. It does not have any grammatical rules to be followed. Long passages of meditation and self-reflections have been used in this technique. Run-on sentences with unusual syntax and rough grammar. Just because that there is no such thing to be followed for this technique. Improper punctuation. As we all know that punctuation is very, very important for any writer or any story, because the punctuation really makes more difference. Then fragmented observation, in such a way that there will be more number of fragments of the story that will be either in the beginning or at the middle or at the end too. And there will be more number of repetitive words and phrases. There will be more number of repetition of words and phrases in this technique. And also the experimental plot structures, because everything will be out of the experiences undergone. And incorporating sensory impressions. So the author will be very particular in incorporating the sensory impressions in order to make the readers get more emotions, and it will have more number of incomplete ideas in this stream of consciousness technique. Features of stream of consciousness technique. It uses very informal and colloquial language. The focalization on the inner thoughts and feelings that will be elaborated in this stream of consciousness technique. No first person but figural narrative mode. That is, there will not be any such importance will be given for the first person or the persona of the story. The flow of thoughts is represented by means of long winding and interconnected sentences. In such a way, the story will be interconnected and twinned with the story which focuses. And there is a great breaking of grammatical rules in this technique. There will not be any such grammatical rules that are followed in this. On the whole, to say, it is not the one which have a very formal feature in literature. The final one is punctuation is completely neglected in this narrative technique. There are various elements that are presented in stream of consciousness. Unusual sequence of events, fragmented time sequences, flashbacks, stream of consciousness by frequently switching point of view. That is, there will not be any such logical sequence or order that are followed in the events of the story. The supernatural elements and the natural elements that is not displayed and which is not questionable. Realistic setting and conflict. It often points out on protests, conflicts concerned with social or political issues. Patterned on fairy tales, mythology, spiritual and folklores. It has a bond with traditional or faith of a community. It may also have dream-like events. That is, we have already seen that this particular narrative technique which has all the three consciousness, that is subconscious mind, conscious mind and the unconscious one. Importance of stream of consciousness as a narrative technique in which they feel about themselves, how far they feel about themselves, how far they feel about the other characters presented in this narrative technique, and the overall physical description of each character and the various events that had taken place in the past, present and in the future. Drawbacks in this technique. The decay of the plot, because there is no particular beginning and end in this narrative technique. The decay of the character, because the character, it has its own mindset and feelings, emotions that are revealed. Death of the author. Death of the author is a well-versed phrase to literature people because once the author written something, there ends his thing and it is in the reader's hand to get, and their perception is much more effective than the author. Next comes the use of informal colloquial languages. Because there is no such following of any such grammatical rules, or there won't be any such proper sequential logical order that are followed in this technique. I have incorporated certain examples, that is novels, which focuses on stream of consciousness as a narrative technique. We shall look at the example novels now. Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalloway, To the Lighthouse, The Waves, Beloved by Toni Morrison, Ulysses by James Joyce, The Portrait of a Lady by Henry James, Pilgrimage, Pointed Roofs by Dorothy Richardson, The Famished Road by Ben Okri, Midnight's Children by Salman Rushdie, On the Road by Jack Kerouac. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you all have understood what is stream of consciousness and how it had been narrated as a narrative technique in the literature. Thank you.